Ancient texts describe a mighty river, wider than the Nile, sacred enough to be worshipped, powerful enough to sustain entire civilizations. But today, if you go looking for this river, it isn't there. It vanished. Completely. Thousands of years ago. For decades, many historians believed it never existed at all. Just a myth. Until satellites looked underground and found something nobody expected. A dried riverbed buried under sand, exactly where the ancient texts said it would be. This is the story of the Saraswati, the river that disappeared and the civilization that disappeared with it. The Saraswati is mentioned dozens of times in some of the oldest texts in South Asian history, described as a great fast-flowing river, larger and more important than the Indus or the Ganges at the time. Hymns describe it flowing from the mountains, all the way to the sea. Entire rituals and prayers were built around it. For centuries, this was treated as poetic exaggeration, a river that was probably just a smaller stream, until geologists and satellite imaging experts started looking at the ground itself. Using radar imaging that can detect ancient riverbeds buried meters below the current desert surface. And they found it. A massive paleo-channel stretching across modern-day northwest India and parts of Pakistan. In some places, the dried channel is over 6 kilometers wide, wider than most rivers flowing anywhere in the world today. This wasn't a myth. This was once one of the largest rivers on the entire subcontinent. And here's the part that changes everything. Hundreds of Indus Valley settlement sites have been found directly along this dried river path. More sites along the dried Saraswati than along the Indus River itself, which means we may have been naming this civilization after the wrong river the entire time. So what actually happened to a river this massive? The leading theory involves tectonic activity, the ground itself shifting. Around 4,000 years ago, geological activity in the Himalayas altered the region's drainage patterns. Tributaries that once fed the Saraswati were redirected. Some were captured by the Indus River system, others by the Ganges system. Slowly, the Saraswati's water supply was being stolen by neighboring river systems. Combined with a major climate shift, the same weakening monsoon pattern that affected the wider Indus Valley. Less rain, less snowmelt feeding the mountains, less water reaching the plains. Over generations, not overnight, the mighty river became a seasonal stream. Then eventually just a dry channel that filled briefly during monsoon season. And finally nothing at all. Just sand where a river once roared. The civilizations that depended on it had no choice but to follow the water. Some moved toward the Indus, others moved east toward the Ganges Plains, which may explain part of the same Indus Valley decline we've talked about in earlier videos, not one single cause. But layers of environmental change, compounding over centuries. A slow-motion disaster that unfolded over generations, not days. Today, researchers are still mapping the full extent of the Saraswati's ancient path. Drilling deep into the desert floor to study layers of sediment, each layer telling a story about water levels going back thousands of years. Some studies suggest groundwater deep beneath the dry channel may still be flowing, slowly, underground. A ghost of the river that once was, still moving quietly beneath the sand. There are now efforts in the region to study whether this underground water could be accessed again, which would be an almost poetic twist. A river vanishing for thousands of years, only to return through modern engineering. The Saraswati's story isn't just about a disappearing river. It's a warning about how fragile even the mightiest natural systems can be. An entire civilization built its life around this water. And when the water left, so did they. It's one of the clearest reminders in ancient history of just how much we depend on rivers we assume will always be there. For thousands of years, people thought the Saraswati was just a story. Turns out, it was real. Buried, waiting to be found. Which makes you wonder what else ancient stories got right, that we dismissed as myth. If you want to find out, subscribe. Because next week we're chasing another story everyone assumed was just legend.